There is an idea of a Patrick Bateman, some kind of abstraction, but there is no real me. And though I can hide my cold gaze, and you can shake my hand and feel flesh gripping yours, and maybe you can even sense our lifestyles are probably comparable, I simply am not there.
American Psycho was released in the year 2000 and it is a psychological horror comedy film directed by Mary Herron. It stars Christian Bale as Patrick Bateman, a New York City investment broker who leads a double life as a serial killer. Willem Dafoe, Jared Leto, Justin Theroux, and Reese Witherspoon, to name a few. The movie is based on Bret Easton Ellis's 1991 novel by the same name, American Psycho. This is honestly one of my favorite movies. I remember back in the day, around the year 2000, I would just... every time it was on cable, yes, cable, the cable was a thing. It was on HBO or Cinemax or Showtime, and I'd always sit down and watch some of it. And I've probably seen the movie 50 times by now. And it's one of my favorite movies, definitely a cult classic and a movie I would highly recommend to anybody. So one of the themes of this book and the movie, the visual manifestation of Patrick Bateman's character's relationship with different designer brands. And in the book, I believe he names 36 clothing brands, including Armani, mentioned 57 times. A brand mentioned numerous times in the book is Rolex. He mentions the Rolex watch, or references the Rolex watch, 26 times in the book. The watch that is referenced in the book is a Rolex Datejust 16013, which is correct to the time period of the 1980s. It has a beautiful tapestry dial, obviously the beautiful golden fluted bezel, golden handset, and golden markers, and of course the steel and gold Jubilee bracelet. That particular reference number, Rolex, was synonymous with Patrick Bateman and his watch. There isn't a doubt, there is no controversy to this. In the book, he was supposed to be wearing a Rolex in the book. It is 100%, there's no denying that. Rolex basically didn't let them, use the name Rolex in their movie because they didn't want to be associated with the production. They didn't even let them utter the name Rolex in the movie, so I guess that extended all the way to their watch. Rolex famously did not want to be involved with the movie project, as is noted in the director's commentary.
Don't touch the watch.
In the book, he says, don't touch the Rolex. Because we couldn't get permission, we have to say, don't touch the watch, which I have to say does not have the same resonance.
In the book, the character Patrick Bateman says, don't touch the Rolex, in the famous scene where he's just slept with the two prostitutes. In the movie, they had to change it to don't touch the watch. Everybody knows that he's referring to a Rolex, but he never mentions that he's wearing a Rolex in the movie. Everybody thinks that he's wearing a Rolex because it looks just like a Rolex, but it's not a Rolex, as I'm going to show you in this video. Maybe it's not a horological mystery, but more like a horological misunderstanding. Most people thought that Christian Bale was wearing a Rolex, but in fact he was wearing a Seiko 5 SNX J90. This watch right here. These watches aren't easy to come by anymore. I actually bought this one on eBay. It was actually a new old stock one. It was just basically a display model, but looks pretty pristine to me. You can still find these things, but you have to either be okay with getting a used one, or this watch's MSRP was about $350. You could probably get them for sub $200 back in the day, easily. When it was all said and done, I paid over $450 for this watch. And when I found out that it was an actual Seiko, I was like, wow, I gotta have that watch. So I went and found one, and I'm really, I think it's absolutely beautiful. It has the same proportions as a 36 millimeter Datejust. Obviously it's missing the Cyclops and all that, but it is quite nice. If you actually watch the movie and you zoom into a couple of scenes, you can actually see, probably one of the biggest telltale signs was that you could actually make out that there was that the crown was at 4 o'clock and not at 3 o'clock like Rolexes have. There are also some scenes where you can zoom in enough and you can actually see the date, the more rectangular shape of the date bezel. Obviously it's a dead ringer for the Rolex. I mean, for all these years, nobody really noticed, nobody knew. So even though Rolex did not even agree to be a part of the production of the movie, they sort of took credit for it after all this time, because everybody thought for all these years that Christian Bale was wearing a Rolex in that movie. And until the advent of higher resolution copies available to the public in Blu-ray and now 4K Blu-ray, you can actually zoom in and see that it's definitely not a Rolex. It is a Seiko 5, and it's this particular Seiko 5. Well, if you found this video entertaining at all, maybe it made you appreciate American Psycho, maybe you'll check out the movie. Who knows? Highly recommend the movie, by the way. Easily a cult classic. It'd be really great if you can like and subscribe. and I'll see you in the next one.
But even after admitting this, there is no catharsis. My punishment continues to elude me, and I gain no deeper knowledge of myself. No new knowledge can be extracted from my telling. This confession has meant nothing.